After performing alert dialogues, you might have noticed that the format of alert dialog is very stringent, or it's very fixed. That is, you can have a title, you can have a message, you can have 3 buttons. But if you want to create a dialog with more controls, then you have to go towards something called as custom dialogues. Normal alert dialogues do a very good job in interacting with the user, but in some cases we need to display content which is not supported by the alert dialog class. Okay, this is the place where custom dialogues are needed. To create a custom dialog, we have to perform the following steps. Step 1 is to create the XML layout for the dialog. Okay, if we want to have our own dialog, if we want to have our own layout, then we have to create an XML layout for the dialog. This XML layout should be inside res/layout folder. Then we have to create a new dialog object with the help of the dialog class. We have to set the content view of this dialog to the XML file that we created in step 1. So we created the XML file, we builded the dialog. Now we have to link this to, that is, we have to create the XML file and we have to put this XML file inside the dialog. So we have to call the set content view function of the dialog and pass the layout ID. We have to get the references of all the controls as we did in the normal activities. Then write the event handlers for them and show the dialog. Okay, so this is very simple. We have to create the XML layout for the dialog first. Then we have to create a dialog object. We have to link the dialog object with the XML layout with the help of the set content view function. After set content view, we should get the references of all the controls with the help of find view by ID, as we have been doing up till now. Then we have to add the event handlers for these controls, and then you have to show the dialog at the output. Let's do it, and do it with the help of a simple license agreement. We have to create a new project named as custom dialog demo and create a new XML file with the name custom-dialog.xml inside the layout folder of a project. Okay, you have to make the layout like this. We have 4 controls over here. The first control is a text view. The ID of it is LBL license. The second control is a checkbox with the name CHK terms read. The third control is a button, BTN accept. Fourth control is a button, BTN decline. And the layout type is linear layout, which is vertically arranged. Okay. Now whenever someone will try to first enter the application, we'll be showing him the simple license agreement dialog. If he says I have read the terms and press accept, he will be able to enter the application. If he presses decline, he will quit out of the application. Okay, this is how we create a simple license agreement dialog. So first write the Java code of this. We have created the XML file inside a new XML file inside the res/layout folder and given the name of the file as custom-dialog.xml. Now inside the onCreate handler of the activity class, let's create a new dialog object. We'll say final dialog DLG equals to new dialog this. The meaning of this is this current activity. So we'll say final dialog DLG equals to new dialog. Now we have to set the content view of the dialog. So we'll say first let's set the title on dialog by saying set title license agreement dialog. Then we'll say dlg.set content view r.layout.custom dialog. So this dialog will have the content view as r.layout.custom dialog. Then we'll get the references to the controls by saying final checkbox CHK terms read equals to checkbox dlg.findView by ID r.id.chk terms read. Once we get the reference of the checkbox, let's get the reference of the second control, that is the button BTN accept. Mark over here that we are not simply saying find view by ID. We are saying dlg.findView by ID. This indicates that the Android OS has to find the view inside the dialog box because we have set dlg.setContentView to r.layout.customDialog. And inside this custom dialog, we have the chk terms read and the btn accept. Okay. Then we'll get the reference of btn decline as well. Once we have got the references of the controls, then we will be moving ahead to write the on-click listeners for the buttons. So we'll say btn accept.set enabled false. This is because until someone checks on the checkbox, till that time the accept button should be disabled. So this is done by saying btn accept.set enabled false. Then we'll write the handler for the btn accept. Whenever someone accepts the license agreement, we want to cancel the dialog. So we will say dialog.cancel. But if someone presses the decline button, we have to exit the application. So we will say finish. So far so good. We are able to write the button listeners for accept and for decline. Now, when someone checks on the checkbox, at that time, if the checkbox has been checked, then we will enable this btn accept, else we will disable the btn accept. So let's write the checkbox listener. We will say chk terms read dot set on checked change listener. This indicates that you have to set a on checked chain listener. The on checked chain listener will be called whenever someone changes the check on the checkbox. If someone checks it, this will be called. If someone unchecks it, this will again be called. So I'll say public void on check changed. In this, there are two arguments. One is the button view, that is the button which has been called, and the second is a boolean variable indicating if the control was checked or unchecked. If the control was checked, this variable will be true. If the control was unchecked, this variable will be false. So we'll check if is checked was true. That indicates that someone has clicked on it and checked it. If it was true, then we will say btn accept.set enabled true. Else we will say btn accept.set enabled false. By doing this, we'll be able to make sure that if someone has checked on the checkbox, then we will enable the accept button. If someone has unchecked the checkbox, we will disable the accept button. After this, we'll just say dlg.show. This will show the dialog on the screen to the user. Let's do it in actual practice and see how we can get a custom dialog to work. Let's do it for the custom alert dialog. Let me go to file and say new Android application project. Give the application name as custom dialog demo. Package name as com.fitech.custom dialog demo. The build SDK as Android 2.3.1. Deselect the icon. Next. Give title as custom dialog demo. Click on finish. You'll be able to get the custom dialog demo. I don't want alert dialog demo, so I'll just right click on this and say close project. In the custom dialog demo, we have to create a layout for the custom dialog. So I'll just right click on the layout and say new Android XML file. Give the layout file name as custom dialogs. The dialog will appear. In the dialog, I want to add first of all a checkbox, or let me add a large text view over here which will read all the terms. Then we have a checkbox which the user can check. Then we have an accept button and a decline button. Let me just right click on this and say layout with match parent, layout with match parent, layout with match parent, and layout with as match parent. Let's have some text over here. Are you sure you accept our license agreement? Okay, on the checkbox, I'll just change the text of this to yes, I accept. On this, let me give the ID of this to chk accept. On the button, I'll just give the text to accept and this to decline. Change the ID of the button, to btn accept, change the ID of decline to btn decline. So far so good. We have 4 controls over here. Now I want this dialog to appear as soon as the user starts the application. So when the user starts the application, the onCreate method is called. So let's go to the source folder. Inside the package, we have the main activity. Let us remove this onCreate options menu from here. And inside the onCreate, we'll spawn the custom dialog. To create the custom dialog, step one was to create a dialog. So we'll say dialog. We have to choose dialog from here. DLG equals to new dialog. It says the context. So the context over here is this. This indicates the main activity dot this. So either you can say this or you can say main activity dot this. Both are one and the same thing. Then we will have step 2. We have to set the content view. So let's say dlg dot set content view. The content view is r dot layout dot custom dialogs. Then step 3, we have to get the references of the controls by saying we have how many controls do we want over here? We want this, we want the button, and we want the second button. So I'll say final checkbox. In checkbox, I'll say chk accept equals to, I have to typecast it to checkbox, and the checkbox is present inside the dialog. So I have to say dlg dot find view by id r dot id dot chk accept. Okay, you have to compulsorily use dlg dot over here because the check accept checkbox is inside the dialog. Okay, that's why you have to say dlg dot. If you will not say dlg dot, the application will close abruptly. Let's say final button btn accept, again button. This is also present inside the dialog. So I'll say dlg dot find view by id r dot id dot btn accept. Then let's say final button btn decline equals to button find view by id r dot id dot btn decline. Now step 4 is quite simple, to write the on-click listeners and other listeners. Okay, so I'll say btn accept dot set on-click listener, new on-click listener. Let me just import the on-click listener from here, and inside this I'll just close this dialog. So what we want to do is we want to say dlg dot cancel, because if someone accepts the dialog, then we have to close the dialog and go to our application. It says an error that dlg is not final. So to use this dialog inside this on-click listener, we have to make it final, because whenever we are using a reference inside a function, that reference has to be declared as final. Otherwise, if that reference changes, the functionality will break up. Okay, we'll say btn decline dot set on click listener, new on click listener. If someone declines the license agreement, I have to finish the application. So far so good. Then we have to simply say dlg dot show. This was our step 5. Show the dialog. So we'll show this. What we can do more is we can set the title on the dialog by saying dlg.set title. I'll say simple license agreement. Okay, we are done. One more important thing is we have to first keep the accept button as disabled. So we'll say btn accept dot set enabled as false, because initially this has to be disabled. Okay, once we are done, then whenever someone clicks on the checkbox, at that time your btn accept should be enabled. So let's say chk accept dot set on checked change listener. Okay, you don't have to write the on click listener, but you have to write on checked change listener. It indicates that it registers the callback when the check stage of this object changes. Okay, so we have to say set on check change listener, new on check change listener. Okay, let's just import this thing and we are good to go. I'll say if is checked is double equal to true, then btn accept dot set enabled true, else btn accept dot set enabled false. Okay, let me just run and show a demo of this to you. Right click, run as Android application. Let's come to the emulator. Okay, it started the application and there is some error in the application. What's that error? We'll just find that out. As you can see, I myself forgot to make dlg.findViewById, and that gave me the error in the application. Let's just run this thing again and see if we can remove that error from the application. Okay, so steps are very crucial. You cannot forget anything. As you can see, the application is running perfectly fine now. The title says a simple license agreement. Are you sure you want to accept a license agreement? If I say yes, I accept, this will get enabled. If I uncheck this, it will get disabled because we have given the functionality of it over here. Second of all, if I click on decline, the application closes and we come out of the application. Now we can again start the application by running custom dialog demo. When I click on yes, I accept and accept the agreement, then I come to my custom dialog application demo.